another best practices video for first grade. I'm Kristen Contra, and in these videos, we will share what one would expect to see and hear as they visit first grade mathematics classrooms. In this first grade unit, we ask students to measure in both the customary and metric units, which in the case of this meme at least, offer some laughs. Providing students real-world examples and reasons why we utilize both inches and centimeters can offer them the support that is necessary within this unit as they tackle each and hopefully have some fun along the way. This first grade unit of study, three-dimensional figures, encompasses the following key learning goals. Estimating the length of objects to the nearest inch before measuring with a ruler, aligning the ruler to measure from the 0 point to the nearest inch or centimeter, and comparing and ordering the length of up to 3 objects by measuring directly and indirectly. These goals can also be found in the STEMscopes parent letter. So what should we see happening in the classroom in order for students to meet these goals? Here we see some clips from the STEMscopes Explore activities. In the first Explore activity, we see students using various strings in order to determine whether objects around the room are longer or shorter than the string they are working with. Once they have measured items around the room, they can then take the time to order their strings from longest to shortest and shortest to longest, which allows them the time to both order and compare the objects. In the second video, students take the time to estimate the length of objects in inches and then use rulers in order to measure the object's actual length. At this point, students can be reminded that they are measuring to the nearest inch, and if an object falls in between two whole numbers, they should pick the whole number it is closest to. In the third video, students are responsible to measure various earthworms to the nearest inch and the nearest centimeter. In the fourth and final video, we see students measuring candles to the nearest inch. When all students in the group have agreed on the correct measure, they then record the lengths of the various candles within the activity. Once they have measured all the objects, students can then work through 3 objects at a time, ordering them from shortest to longest and longest to shortest. Each of these activities are great examples of the ways the CRA, concrete, representational, and abstract approach is implemented within the STEMscopes lessons. Classroom discussion and student sharing are both great ways to highlight student work and help them build and understand connections. For these reasons, these activities could demonstrate MTRs 1, 2, 4, 5, and 7. Questions are a great way to help dictate the direction of the discussion in the classroom. Here are some great examples of open-ended questions for students from the Math Chat cards within Scope 11. They encourage students to reflect on how they measured various objects around the classroom and the order of the objects from shortest to longest or longest to shortest. Students should also reflect on how they estimated objects to the nearest inch, and why the skill of estimation might be helpful before measuring the actual length. Lastly, these questions ask students to discuss and ponder the units of measure and their differences. The conversations elicited from these questions could demonstrate MTRs 1, 2, 4, and 6, and can be found in the Scope 11 Explore sections. While students are engaging in exploration tasks and having discussions about their learning, we should be hearing specific mathematical vocabulary used by both the teacher and the students. Students should identify the distance from one end to another end of an object as length, and that when they compare, they are examining the similarities and differences between items. They should also correctly use the term inches, the customary unit of measure, and centimeters, which is the metric unit of measure, within the unit at hand. This list includes many terms within this scope. These terms and their definitions can be found on the Scope 11 parent letter. There should be multiple opportunities for students to show their understanding throughout this unit. From student journal entries to explore exit tickets and show what you know tasks, there are plenty of chances for informal and formal assessment along the way. Students are asked to compare and order lengths, utilizing language such as shortest and longest. They are asked to measure worms to the nearest inch and make direct comparisons in order to compare the length of candles and flowers. There are also those amazing fluency games where students can not only build and show their understanding, but continue to grow within and practice the content. All of these resources, including these games and center activities, are also available to print in Spanish, so please be sure to check them out. These activities could demonstrate MTRs 2, 3, 6, and 7 and can be found within the STEMscopes Scope Explore and Show What You Know sections. As classrooms are visited throughout the school year, questions are a fantastic way to gauge student understanding. The following questions are a great way to measure a first grader's understanding of length. Students could explain whether the number of centimeters or inches would be greater when they measured their pencil, or the relationship between a ruler and a number line. They should also identify objects whose measure would fall in between two objects, utilizing a comparison of the objects to do so. Be sure to check out our Math Smarts website for some additional questions to ask students in order to gauge their understanding. Home is a great place for students to continue their learning. This is an example of an activity from the Scope parent letter that gets both students and parents involved. Create a list of items around the house that you both will measure, using your literal feet as the units. Take time to measure objects around the house together. Make sure to guide the student to begin measuring at the beginning of the object and placing their foot to heel to do so. Objects around the house include, but are certainly not limited to, the couch, the child's bed, or even the kitchen table. Once a few measurements have been taken, compare the differences between the parent foot measurements and the student foot measurements. Why might the lengths be different? As an extension, students could be asked to estimate the number of their feet and the parent feet different objects might be. The purpose of this activity is for students to use a non-traditional method of measurement to estimate and measure objects around the house. The parent letter includes this and many other activities for home, so be sure to check it out. Thanks for joining us today as we discuss best practices for the first grade unit, length. After working through the various hands-on activities and other ideas mentioned in this video, hopefully both teachers and students will be sharing "You rock" and "You rule" compliments left and right. We will see you next time for our next best practices video.